Okay, I'll make a start. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jackie Prentice. I'm the training manager here at Texthelp. I work within the customer care team of the education division, and I've picked out my top 5 gems. I think these are tools that maybe just don't get as much of the limelight, but can have massive support to the student. I'm not saying that this is going to be, the tools that you will show first, but certainly the tools that I would encourage you to certainly include in that first sort of tranche whenever you're showing students. They don't come in any particular order, so I'll start off with gem number 1, and this can be very popular in the software. It's the audio maker, and the audio maker converts text into an audio file to listen to then when and wherever the student needs or wants to. So they can take a chapter of a book, make it into that little MP3, and listen to it maybe on their phone as they walk home, or on the bus on the trip home, or listen to it back in halls, wherever. And it basically is a tool that helps to reduce the stress of reading and makes the task much more flexible. So I'm going to very quickly show you that in action. So as you know, with of course Read&Write, you can use it with absolutely anything. You know, that's to me one of its beauties, is that you can use it with any content. It doesn't matter what subject it is, it doesn't matter what level of education, or indeed even going into the workplace, what role the person's in. You give it the content. So we're going to do a little bit of geography today, and we'll do a little bit of nursing as well, I believe, as we go forward. So here's some information about glaciers. So I always hate saying let's pretend, because it takes me back to whenever I was a child, but anyway, imagine you are a student and you have this information to read about a glacier, and you're in the computer lab maybe, or the library, and you need to go and meet somebody for coffee. So what they simply do is they select the text. Okay, I'm going to just select a little bit. I'll talk about how much you can convert in a little while. I'm going to select the text, and then I'm going to call down Read&Write, which is up at the top. I should have done that first, sorry. Select the text, then click on Audio Maker. And you can see that it pulls in the text. Here I can edit this, by the way. I can take bits out if I want. So it might be maybe, I want to take bits out in the middle, but I'm going to just leave it the way it is. Importantly, this is where it's going to save it. Now, I've got it saving it automatically onto my desktop, but obviously for students, really usability-wise, they're better sort of setting up their own little individual folder where they can save that to, so that it's not clogging up their desktop, and it means then that it's easier for them to find. It puts in a file name automatically. That actually comes from the first little bit of text that I selected there. But again, I can actually edit that. So I'll just take that little bit away. And then all I need to do is click on Create MP3. Now, a nice change in this latest version of Read&Write is that you see a progress bar of it actually being made. But in addition, this black bar appears when it says your MP3 is being created. And all I need to do is click on the show for it to direct me to where that little MP3 has been saved, which of course is onto my desktop. Now, importantly, I can play it here. It's a little MP3. I'll play it. It plays using my, I've got VLC on my computer to play audio files. But more importantly, it is individual now and separate from that Word document. It's separate from Read&Write. It's totally independent. I can email it to myself, pick it up on my computer at home. I can pick it up on my phone, whatever and wherever I actually want to carry out my reading. So I can finish that reading of glaciers on my way to meet my friend for coffee. And as I said, it's just to give them much more flexibility on where they carry out their reading, rather than always being tied to the computer itself. Now, I mentioned that I would talk about how much you can actually change. And in regards to the amount you can convert in one go, it's about 20,000 characters. And whenever I thought about 20,000 characters, went, well, how much actually is that? So I did a comparison. I used, it was actually Pride and Prejudice, because I figured most people are aware of Pride and Prejudice, if not, maybe have read it. And I got the first 7.5 chapters converted before it said, no, that's too much. Now, the thing is that the little MP3 that's converted, that has been made, does not have bookmarks. So it's not going to say chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 in it anyway. So usability-wise, you're better directing and telling the students that really they're better off creating smaller little MP3s rather than trying to convert masses of text at a time anyway. Okay, so that's the audio maker, and as I say, it's just this ability to convert text into a different format, and for that format then to be able to be put onto whatever device it is that they want it to be on, and also then be able to listen to it wherever they wish, which gives them much more flexibility. So that's the audio maker. And I'll just go back to my presentation, and that for me is gem number 1. Gem number 2 is scanning. Now, scanning's been in the software for ages. It's actually, rather than scanning itself, it's a new way that scanning is being increasingly used. That really is gem number 2 to me. Because, you know, the fact is that whenever scanning was first employed in the software, it was very much this idea of using it with flatbed scanners, and indeed students were being recommended flatbed scanners at that time as well. But the fact is that none of us actually walk around with flatbed scanners in our pockets, so it is quite regimented in regards to where they could actually carry out their scanning. You know, so again, if you think of it in regards to a student, say, in a library, you can't take a book home. But the fact of the matter is that while all of us aren't walking around with a flatbed scanner tucked underneath our arms, most of us, if not all of us, are walking around with a smartphone in our pockets. And that is another way you can scan. So think of the student needing to leave the library. They can just simply take a picture of the page or pages that they've yet to finish their reading. And then they can use the scanning to scan it into PDF or Word. Now, which they scan it into is dictated by what they want to do with that scan, obviously. So we recommend scanning it into PDF if they just want to read it, because they scan it into PDF, it's like a picture near enough of the original, and then we have PDF Reader to read it for them. But if they need to be able to scan something in and they need to maybe use sections or parts of it as quotes, obviously they should scan it into Microsoft Word, and then they have the full editing functionality that they'll be used to. And if you think about it, this makes a nice companion to the audio maker, because they can then select the text and use the audio maker to make it into a little MP3 and listen to it on the bus on the way down to the coffee shop or whatever. So let me show you that. So again, I'm just going to minimize out of the way. Okay, and I'm going to just simply click on scan. Okay. Now, the first panel that appears has this select your device, and you can see that I have a number of devices actually all plugged into my laptop computer here. The brother is actually a flatbed scanner, so going old school a little bit, but here's the newer kid as such, and the one that we are able to support directly in this latest version of Read and Write. So I'm going to choose Apple iPhone. So I have my iPhone attached to my computer, more often than not, quite simply because that's how I charge it. But I've attached it, and a couple of weeks ago, a magazine popped through the door with a Educate, I think was the magazine, and there was a poem in it, and I just took a picture of the page with the poem on it. So I've unlocked my computer, or sorry, unlocked my phone, I should say, and I made sure that I clicked on trust, because that's what happens whenever you attach your phone to the computer. It's make sure you trust the computer, okay? Because by doing that, it allows the phone to talk to the computer and the same way around. So I've selected my phone. Now what do I want it to make me as? So I want to leave it as a PDF because I just want to simply read it. So I'll leave it as that, and it's just a single page. Then all I have to do is click on scan. Now what it's going to do, it's going to actually communicate with my phone and pop up another panel because it pops up there. Okay, so if I make this a little bit bigger, you'll be able to see better, you know, that there's obviously most of these are photographs of my receipts for my expenses and things like that, some health and safety pictures. But the very last one is the picture of the poem that I mentioned. So I just simply click on Get Picture. Now the next stage will always be, you will be asked to save the scan. This is the default that we set in the software. Quite simply because we find that people were carrying out scans and not remembering that they hadn't saved it. And they would close it, not save it, and have to do the scan all over again. So now, by default, they are automatically asked to save the scan before it actually carries out the scan itself. So I'm going to save it onto my desktop, and I'm going to call it Poem. And just click on Save. This is where the OCR takes place. OCR, for anybody who doesn't know, stands for Optical Character Recognition. What does that mean in English? It basically means it's looking at the text that's on the screen, trying to make out, is it an A or a B or a C or a D, putting all those letters together to make obviously the words and indeed the sentences. And then the next stage, whenever it's scanned that picture, is to pop it up in our PDF reader. Now, again, a nice thing that I like in this latest version of Read&Write is that the student is constantly being told what's happening. And if I just bring over my PDF reader, okay, so there's the full page. Obviously, it's quite small, so I'm going to use one of the preset zooms. I'll go up to 150. It's in PDF Reader. So what is actually switched on by default in PDF Reader is Click to Speak, which does exactly what it says. You click and it speaks.
The bus goes on, and it's full, and it's leaving, and it's laughing, and it's going on, and it's morning, and it's evening.
And I'll stop it there. But hopefully you can see what I'm saying about with a PDF. It's like a perfect picture because you might just be able to make out that there is my keyboard in behind the scenes there. So that's the document just sitting over the top, or the magazine just sitting over the top. So that's being able to use the camera on your phone to carry out scanning. And certainly in regards to flexibility, you know, imagine the amount of information also, if you think about it, that goes up on university walls. Just having that ability to just simply take a picture of it, which a lot of students will do, take a picture of it, then they can use the scanning to scan it in to whichever format that they want it in. Okay, so that's the scanning. So slightly different. It's not just the actual tool specifically, really, it's scanning, but using the mobile phone. And for me, that is my gem number 2. Gem number 3 doesn't maybe need some introductions to some of you as being a perfect gem, and that is the highlighters. Because of all the tools in Read&Write, whenever I show anyone the highlighters, the fact is that most often they say they wish they had it earlier in their education. And I think it's just simply because everyone uses highlighters. Everyone's well used to using highlighters, particularly when they get to university level. But the fact of the matter is, like, I go into primary schools and they're using highlighters. You know, they're using them from no age. And I think it's for this very reason that the highlighters is a really easy tool to convince a student to use. But of course, it has additional functionality that you don't get with the normal sort of practical way that you would use a handheld highlighter. I'll go back to this document on glaciers, but it could, as I said, be absolutely anything. Now, there's a choice of 4 colors. I think 4 is enough, but please do let us know if you think that, you know, students need more than 4 colors. I'm going to just randomly select some text and color it, but obviously for a student it could be, for example, that they would highlight in one color the most important information about the glaciers, or it might be they highlight how glaciers are formed in one color, how glaciers are, are eroded in another color, whatever. Little tip though, if you're a trainer, particularly if you're training students, is to, if they are going to use multiple colors, to jot down somewhere quickly before they start to use the highlighters what color they're using for what, because they don't want to suddenly halfway through realize that they've accidentally swapped over colors. So as I said, I'm going to very randomly select some text. I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about what is being selected, but just to show you how quickly it can be done. And just to show you what the outcome is going to be like, I'll use some of the different colors as well. Back to yellow, and we'll do some green, and just so that we're using all 4, I'll do some pink as well. Then when they're ready, all we need to do, and this is where the difference is between the practical way that you would use an actual physical highlighter. Here you can then collect those highlights out. So there's all the colors collected together. And there's a bibliography at the end. Now the bibliography at the end is rather simplified, particularly because of course that was just a simple, it's a Microsoft Word document that I'd created just for demonstration purposes. But it would be the website address, for example, if I'd used it on a web page or whatever like that there. So for me, really, the highlighters, it's a really quick way of gathering information out. And again, if you think about it, makes a really good tool to use in conjunction with the audio maker, because I can then select that text, click on the audio maker, and lo and behold, I've created a little MP3 of those revision notes that I need for my test on glaciers or whatever it happens to be. Okay. But remember, as I said, the bibliography is more limited in regards to here. If a bibliography is more important, we have another tool, and that leads me on, indeed. I go back to my presentation, to my next tool. Okay, so gem number 3 was highlighters. Gem number 4, as you can probably have given you sort of a clue for, is the research folder. So as I said, the highlighters don't create a bibliography, you know, doesn't really sort of, it's more limited. It's a bit more limited. For students that, of course, will need a lot more information if they're doing any sort of research before they can actually submit it. And I remember, you know, although it's quite a wee while ago, I'm still sort of haunted by the night that I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning simply searching for where I got this one bit of information from, so that I could actually make sure I could add it into my actual essay. So for this is where we would recommend the research folder. So again, just to show you that, and I'll close that out of the way, just not save it. This time I'm going to go to the internet and we'll look at COPD. So we're going to do some nursing. Okay. You know, the internet is a fantastic resource, obviously, of information. It's got so much information out there, but the downside is that there's so much information out there. It's sort of like, well, where did I get it? How do I keep it? You know, unfortunately, I still actually find that some students will actually print a web page off because for some reason it's sort of like they don't want to lose it. They're scared in case they can't find it again. So we've got the research folder for this. Now this works in a slightly different way in that you actually access the research folder first. You know, we're used to sort of selecting text first and then clicking on an icon. But this, by actually clicking on the research folder, opens up an additional little toolbar. Then all they need to do is find the information that they want to collect. Okay, so let's go for this. What's the difference between COPD and asthma? Now all I need to do is select the text and click on the little green button, Add Text. You can see that it's actually put in the title for me because I actually selected the title with it, so that makes it nice and easy. It puts in today's date because it's extremely important, obviously, for web pages. It puts in the author as myself, but obviously the student will well be versed at this stage of their learning about using the correct author. It is, it would be something we would love to be able to do ourselves, but unfortunately web pages they can have multiple authors, so it's just something that we can't actually get technically ourselves. But what we can do, of course, is get the full website address, which is the important bit. So there's the text. Now, rather than just put it all into one research folder, we're able to actually create multiple folders within our research folder. And as you can see, I've already got set ones up. I can click on Add to add numerous more if I wanted to. But I've got the ones that I want, so I'm going to just simply click on COPD and click on OK. And then they can, if they wish, put in a comment. And click on Save. And they say your text has been added to your research folder, and just click on OK. Now, the other nice thing about the research folder is that you can also collect pictures. So here's a nice picture maybe that they might want to include in their assignment. And to collect the picture, there's an extra little icon on here that looks a little bit, I suppose, like our screenshot reader up here. But it has a little pair of scissors instead. So if I click on it, in the same way, what I need to do is draw the box around the picture that I want to collect. Okay. When I'm done, I just simply release my left click. Put in the title. So let me see. Put in the author again. Don't have to worry about the source. It's been created and added for me. COPD. And click on Save. And click on OK. And they can go on to any number of different websites, collect information on any number of different sources, or indeed different topics that they might need, or different essays that they're working on, or different assignments. At some stage then, of course, they are going to want to look to see exactly what they've got in their research folder. So to do that, they click on the research folder, and by default, all is shown, so I can see all of the information. So some history in there, some biology, some marketing, quite a few different things, but obviously to narrow it down, I can choose the folder that I'm specifically interested in. Then within the actual folder, I can look to see which one I want to use. That's the one. I'll click on that one. Yeah, but I want to use that one and that one. They just simply select what bits of information it is that they want to export, then simply click on Export. So what it's going to do now is produce a new Word document with those 4 bits of information that I've collected in. I'll get that out of the way. So the text, the full website address, where I got it from, what date it was accessed. There's the one that I got today. There's the picture. Obviously the picture is a little bit too big, so I can resize it for the the moment if I wanted to, and put it whatever size that I want. And our last little bit of information in as well. Okay, and that's got much more information in that the student can use to create the bibliography. Okay, so that is the research folder. Minimize that. And that is gem number 4 in my list of top gems. The final gem then is voice note. Voice note enables the student to record their voice and insert it either into a Word document or indeed save it as a little MP3. There's absolutely lots, there's tons of ways it can be used. The reason why it's actually making my top 5 is largely due, unfortunately, to the horrible circumstances we currently find ourselves in, because students are having to do a lot more out of lecture learning than normal. And communication has obviously been impacted because of that. And the voice note makes it an easy way for a student to communicate with their lecturer or other team members, if they're still having to do any sort of team assignments or anything like that there. So let's have a look. Now, I'm going to show it in Microsoft Word first of all. It's not popping up for me for some reason. So I'll just go back to that glaciers, but it could be absolutely any Word document. I'll show you it in Word first. So say, for example, let's pretend or let's imagine we are a student and this is an essay that they're writing and they're not ready yet to submit it. They're not too sure. Maybe they've got a question about what they need to cover and they're going to email their lecturer. But rather than sort of email, about all what they want to say, what they can do is simply click in where they want to add their little voice note. So say, for example, they have they're not sure if they've done enough information about how glaciers are formed or something like that there. So they just simply click in there. Then they click on voice note, which is the very last little icon on the toolbar here. And it opens up this panel. This little microphone is exactly that. Whenever they're ready, they just simply click on record. Hi, Christopher. I'm close to actually submitting this assignment for you tomorrow, but I just have a really quick question about the part of the question I've answered about how glaciers are formed. I'm not sure if I put enough information in here, and I don't really know if there is actually much more I can actually add. I'd really appreciate it if you could give me some sort of guidance in regards to this, if I need to do more or what. Stop there. They can hear themselves play it back, okay, but more importantly what they can do is click on insert. And it inserts it by default as a little audio comment in Microsoft Word. Now the important thing here now is that if I save this Word document and email it to Christopher, Christopher can open it. He will see the little comment in the Word document. If he opens it up, he'll see this little, get that out of the way, he'll see the little play button, and as long as he double clicks it, he will actually hear the student and what they said just by double clicking on it. Unfortunately, my VLC decides to take really a long time to actually open. This is not Read and Write, this is VLC that's taking this time, by the way. There we go.
Hi, Christopher. I'm close to actually submitting this assignment for you tomorrow, but I just have a really quick question about the part of the question I've answered about how glaciers are formed. I'm not sure if I put enough information in here. And
I'll stop there. I think that's a nicer way to communicate with the student and the lecturer, because you can actually get their more emotion across and what it is that they're actually trying to say, rather than having to spend the time trying to type out exactly what it is that they want to say. Makes it much quicker. In a similar vein, it could be a Word document shared with another team member. So it could be maybe a team member has worked on this part, but they forgot to put in where they got that information from to add to the bibliography. So again, they could click on it, click on the voice note, Click on record. Hi Louise, I think it was this part of it that you worked on. Would you mind adding this, the reference of this into the bibliography at the end, because at the minute it's missing. Thanks very much. Click on insert and it goes into the document again. Okay. Or the other way you can do it is you can save it just as a simple little MP3 and actually attach it to an email, for example, if necessary. It's another way of communicating between people. You can actually click on the little record audio. Hi Richard, I think I should have this essay finished by 11 o'clock. I was wondering if you wanted to meet down and grab a quick cup of coffee. Stop it, save it, save it as a little MP3. I just attach that to an email, blast it off to Richard, and he'll get the recording then of the actual student asking them for coffee. Okay, so as I said, lots and lots of different ways of using this one tool, and that is, get this out of the way, that is the voice note. Okay, so let me pull up my presentation for the last time. So voice note makes my gem number 5. Obviously, we've got lots of resources. I'm sure you've come across them. You know, obviously, we've got the webinar schedule. But it's really to make sure that you're comfortable and confident in showing Read and Write to anybody. The place to start probably is our website. So it's simply texthelp.com. I'll put all the full addresses up shortly. But if you wish to gain certification on our software, that has all moved into what's known as our training portal, which is training.texthelp.com. It is actually going to be included back into our website shortly, but at the minute it's sitting out by itself there. So it's simply training.texthelp.com. Now currently, because it's actually out on its own in a Moodle, this is a Moodle site, you need to click on login. But whenever you click on login, you can log in with any Microsoft, Facebook or Google account. You know, you don't need to come to asking for any login details or anything like that there. Just use any. This is free for anybody to actually access. I'm going to log in with my Google account. Okay, so once you've logged in, just simply click on courses. If you need to learn anything about our courses, you know, or sorry, I should say products, you're looking under courses to learn how to use the Texthelp products, and there you'll see all the different variations, including Equatio, for example, which is relatively new into the DSA scene. But I mentioned certification in regards to training and things like that there. That's where you need to go. It's certification. Now, we've actually merged certification in all of the different areas around the world that we actually are in as such. So we now have 2 levels. So we've got level 1, which is certified user, and level 2, which is role specific. Level 1 certified user is product based. Now you need to do level 1 before you can do level 2. So with level 1, you can come in, and then whenever you've completed level 1, you can move on then to level 2. And level 2 will have the certified, and we've got lots of different roles here. So we've got educator, AT trainer or trainer, and there is also assessor, which is down at the bottom, I believe. Yeah. Okay, now for those, this one, you have to complete a very small project. And when I say small, I do mean small. You know, I'm only talking about, you know, 2-3 pages long. For an educator, it's a simple lesson plan. For a trainer, it's a simple training plan, just of how you would actually show somebody else read and write. But that's where you can now gain, or where you can gain certification or regain your certification if you're interested in that. But as always, remember that help is at hand, and dsa@texthelp.com is the email that will get through to the whole team, and someone will be able to get back to you to help you with that. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed seeing my top 5 gems. Thank you.